Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Christy with AppSumo, and welcome to today's webinar. We are joined by Paul, who is the CEO and founder of Continually. Paul, happy to have you here.
Hey, Christy. Hey, everyone. Great to see you.
Awesome. Now, I know you guys are already here because you're already saying hello and hi in the chat box. John wants to know, have you seen my baseball? I have no idea what that means, but John, I hope you find your baseball. All right. So guys, if you're here, there's a good chance you already know what Continually does, but just in case you don't, it helps capture customer leads, automate scheduling, keep visitors engaged with chatbots, and it's on AppSumo right now for only $49 for a lifetime. When I did the demo with Continually, I was very excited about it, and actually one of the examples that I created for my own purposes was I created a little chatbot that asks my site visitors what kind of content they would like to see on my site. So that's just my use case, and Paul's going to show you other use cases, and I'm sure if you've played around with the tool, you have your own use cases. But in the event that you've never been to one of our webinars before, this is how it's going to work. Right now, you're seeing the two of us. In a second, I'm going to shut down my camera. Paul's going to take you through a demo and a walkthrough of the software, show you all the nifty features. And then if at any point you have a question for him, go ahead and put that in the chat box, because at the end of the webinar, I'll come back on and I'll ask him my questions so you can listen live. That way you can pay attention to the demo and don't have to keep your eye on the chat box. If you can't make it until the end of the webinar, that's okay too, because I'm going to be sending out a replay later today so you can catch up on what you missed. All right, I think that's everything. I think those are all the logistics. Paul, let's make sure that your screen sharing is still working, and then I'll let you take it away.
All right.
Sandy has a question about our software, and I wanted to let you know, Sandy, before I jump off here, we've started uploading our replays to YouTube. So from now on, you'll probably see all of our webinar replays on YouTube, so you can fast forward, you can go back, you can share, you can leave comments if you want. All right, so our replays will be on YouTube, and you'll get that link later today. All right, Paul, it looks like you're good, so I'm going to let you take it away.
All right. Well, listen, thank you, everyone. So before we begin the demo, I wanted to do a brief introduction. I know you've seen Christy's video before, and many of you have seen the questions on the deal page. So this is just a very quick 60-second overview of what Continually is, why it exists, why we're building it. So we want to make sure that you never miss a lead from your website. So today, when someone visits your website, they could be looking to answer a question. They might want to find out more information about your products and services. And when they get in touch, they expect to hear back right away. So if you have visitors coming from all over the world, it's really hard to be available all the time. What most people do in the past, or did in the past, is they'd use forms to capture that information, to capture the lead. So they'd ask for your name, your email address. But people find that unfriendly, it's impersonal, and as a buyer, you don't know when you're going to hear back. So there's some good research from Professor James Allroy at MIT that shows that when businesses respond faster, they're much more likely to close the sale. And waiting even just a few hours to get back to a potential customer means they're much less likely to buy from you. So that's why whenever you have services like live chat, they can be great at that quick response, but it's really hard to get people to be available 24/7. It's too expensive to have you and your team available all the time. So what we want to do is help you to have those great responses and those great customer experiences, and to generate more qualified leads, but without the expense of having your team available all the time, and so you can get some sleep. So Continually is a single line of code that you can add to your website that lets you automatically reply to people. It lets you swap those sign-up forms for these cool messaging experiences that are really engaging and interactive. It's a more human and personal way of responding to potential customers. And what we've done is made it really super simple and easy to use. And that's what we're going to show in the demo today. So this screen that you see here is an example of how you build a really powerful bot conversation. So today I'm going to dig into how you build your first bot. I'm going to show you how you can also supercharge or turbocharge the bot with live chat if you're available. And I'm also going to show you our landing page feature, which is a really cool way if you want to respond to customers, you don't necessarily have a website or a page in the website that suits, you can put your bot on a landing page all on its own you can send traffic to. So there's three things that hopefully we'll show in the demo, and there's loads of cool stuff that we'll dive into. So lastly, when those leads do come in, I'll show you what happens, the kind of profile information you get, what it looks like inside the app, and what to do when you want to reply. So I'm going to flick now into my browser. Okay, I see there are some questions coming in already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say spend 5 or 10 minutes running through those 3 key things. Hopefully you'll all be able to follow what I'm saying. And then once I've done a quick review of the demo, we'll stop, we'll take some questions, and if it's helpful, I can go back and either explain things or show specific parts that people are interested in. So here you'll see I've just registered an account with Continually. You see I'm Continually, I've got my name up here on the top right. This is the first screen that you see once you get started. It's our getting started checklist. And it's probably the first piece you'll see when you come into the product. So what I want to do is to build a new bot. So I'm going to go to my main menu here and choose bots. Now you'll see that we've already built one so far, but I might want to edit that. So you can see there are some different ways you can show your bot. You can give it a welcome message like this. So when someone lands on your site, you'll see, I'll scroll out wide so you can see everything. You'll see a helpful piece of information that's relevant to the person who's visiting the page. And you can change that. So maybe instead of it's, would you like a demo? It might be, hi, do you have any questions? And you'll see it appearing here on the right-hand side. If you'd like, you can also add an image. So I could upload an image and it would appear here. This is great if you have something like a product announcement, a newsletter you want to get someone to sign up for, a blog article you want to post. It doesn't have to be an image, it could be a video, it could be a link to other content. So tons of cool stuff that you can do to engage visitors when they land on your page. Now, for the moment, we're just going to leave this as a welcome message. You can also choose to use a button. I know there's a really common thing that people want to do is maybe a welcome message is intrusive, you want to simplify it, you just have a button. Or you might have a button and a call to action on the page already that you want to use of your own. So you'll see there's some help instructions here. If you assign a class continually to any button on the page, that will trigger the bot. There's also some help content on how you can use multiple bots on one page. Say, for example, you have, we in fact had one customer who had, I think, 8 different bots on one page for different flows that someone might want to go through. So you can really do something that's pretty powerful here. So I'm going to go back to my welcome message. And if you want to change the experience the customer has, you have this drag and drop canvas. We talk about it as the bot builder. And it lets you build a series of messages that the customer can see and respond to. Depending on the types of information that they're looking for, you can create these relevant personal experiences without really needing to understand a whole amount about bots or any programming at all. So this orange bar at the top tells me that this is the first message in the conversation. That's a kind of like a helpful pro tip to be aware of. Now you can change that, but I won't worry about that now. So if I wanted to say, our welcome message asks if they have any questions. So I'd say, hey, what can I help you with? Something like that. And you'll see whenever I do that, if I refresh the preview here, then that updates immediately. Now you'll see I have this simple series of messages, and the first thing that I've done is I've created an appointment booking, but maybe I want to create different paths for different people who want to have different experiences. So I'm going to create some different options here. And I can just drag and drop these. Using the arrows, I can drag and change the order from there over to there. And then what can I help with? Let's say, which areas of our product you're most interested in. So this might be, software development, you might be a bot development, you might be a digital marketing services. So I can drop that off. You can add more answers. You can change the type of question this is. You can also use this as a variable. I'll show you in a second. Now, from there, I can create off each of these different options a different path. Now, so what I'm going to do is, that's a little unfriendly, so I'm going to maybe add a bit more personality here. And I'm going to ask for someone's name first. I'm going to just change the copy here. And you'll see I can use that as a variable. You have someone's first name available by default, so I don't even need to do anything. Excuse me, that's the wrong order. So even though I changed my mind there, that was super quick. I'll leave that for the time being. So I'm going to just quickly replay that. So you can see now that it says, "Hey Paul," so the bot recognized my name straight away, and it gives me the three options if I was a digital marketer or a software development agency that I might want to offer. Now I might change that and say, what can we help? More friendly. Now, let's say, for example, I've already written some content about software development that I want to share. I might have a video explaining how we do software projects. So I can link that up to Rick. He's going to tell us all about the software business. Or maybe if it's bot development, I might have written an article about that, or a blog post that is exactly what my visitors need to know. And I can take visitors to that path instead. But if someone's interested in digital marketing services, maybe they're my best type of customer and I really want to speak to that person straight away. So this would be a great opportunity to use something like an appointment. Now, I'm going to do a quick refresh here. I'm going to put in a different name so you can see that it really works. So this is Stephen this time. And if I'm interested in software development, it's going to load the video that we just saw. It's going to take me to the content and I'll open up in a new tab. And then the last path, if I click digital marketing services, this is going to open up a scheduling question. Now you'll see this is connected to one of my colleagues' calendars, and this is looking at the free busy information on that calendar. That can be an Office 365 calendar, that can be using Google Calendar, and it will look for when that person's actually available. So if you have, say, one of your team or yourself, you're sitting there and you want to be able to book meetings quickly, there's a great way of doing it where you only offer those meetings to people who are a good fit. You can learn a little bit about them, what they're interested in, and they get a calendar invite that goes straight to them. So if I put my email address in, I use continual. See, my typing is not so good when I'm doing a webinar. But it's going to send me a calendar invite. Now, this is only a preview, so I don't actually get the invite. But maybe I might want to ask some follow-up questions, and you could build this flow out. And so you can use things like a logic question. So you can create rules based on the different things that people say. Or, in fact, if I go back, if I want to store this answer as a variable, I'm going to call this services. I'm just going to reuse a fallback to mean when someone skips that question for any reason, say you take them past it, you might need to reference something there. So you can add conditions, and you'll see now that that services variable is there. So depending on what flows you build, you can set different parameters so that if someone picks different options, not only can you create different paths for them, but you can then use those answers to reference what they said or to create more complex rules as you build the conversation logic. Now, I didn't want to talk for too long. I've spent quite a long time showing just to orient you about the canvas. What I really want to get across here is how simple and easy it is to build these. You have tons of different types of objects that you can add. You can add messages, videos, images, content. You can create rules and create paths in those conversations. And then lastly, as well as controlling the appearance options and the messages, you can target these bots so that they have they appear in the right place for your visitor. So instead of appearing on all pages, I mean, that's great for something like a welcome message. I can create some specific targeting rules. So I could, for example, say, create this page only on, put this only on my blog page or only on my pricing page, and so on. So that's a kind of quick summary of what you can do with the bot. Now I'm going to go back. So you'll see that I edited the request a demo bot. I mentioned maybe one of the things that you might want to do is to install that. So if I go back to my Getting Started page, if you're comfortable with code or you have a website builder you're using, you can add a snippet of code to the site yourself. If you have a WordPress site, we offer a plugin to make that really easy to do. But maybe you don't have a site to hand, or you're still building one, or you just want to try this out. You can also use this as a landing page. So you'll see here, I have a landing page called appsumodemo.continually, and I can edit the content on this page. I can change what it says. I can choose if I have multiple bots, which one I'm going to trigger on the page. So if I create a second bot, I can maybe use that here. I can customize the look and the feel of the page, put my logo on it. And I can also change some of the important metadata that affects if someone shares this link on, say, a social site like YouTube, that the text that describes the page will be exactly what we want it to be. So here, all right, let's go, Sumo links. So this is exactly the page I was just showing you. And now when I click start, that's going to use the bot that we just built. So this is back to the flow that we were looking at a second ago. It remembers my name. It's going to offer me these services. Now, what if I have a question that isn't one of the three things that I see? This is where you have the opportunity to use something like live chat. So if I'm sending a message here, you can connect this to a Slack workspace. We like Slack because we find a lot of people who are using Continually are already using Slack, and it's free for the vast majority of teams who use it. You've got a limit of 10,000 messages, I think, on the free plan, which covers most people. So it means that you have a platform you're already using with great mobile apps for Android and iOS that you can respond to visitors in the place you're already working. So if you are in the office and you do want to jump into a conversation, say for example, I said, I have a question about something else. And I'm going to tell about my email address. Because this is a webinar, I'm going to jump behind the scenes and let you see what's happening here. So if I go into Safari, you'll see that this is a Slack workspace. If you're familiar with Slack, you'll recognize this. We've set up a demo Slack workspace, and we have a channel called Live Chat that all of the messages come to. So my colleague Andy is helpfully manning the live chat channel here. And you'll see he's joined the conversation. And this is Andy replying in real time. So, hey, Andy, give us a wave if you don't mind. Maybe send us a little emoji. Let's see. So I'm going to show you Andy has, great. So Andy has joined the channel and he's just pasted this GIF in and that now appears live in real time. So you can have a lot of fun with this too. What this is great for is having that live real-time conversation whenever you have the time and bandwidth and you're available. So you've really got a whole bunch of different ways that you can help people. You can help them with the automated conversations. You can help them by going live and having that conversation through Slack. And you can put this on a landing page. So either you've got visitors on your site you're going to target or somewhere that you can direct people straight to. So hopefully that's a kind of a good introductory roundup. I know we spent quite a bit of time there and there's so much more we could show. So I think at this point, it'd be great if we switch maybe to take some questions and we'll see what parts of the product are most interesting and which bits that people want me to follow up on. We can talk about things that would be helpful for you.
Awesome. So Paul, we had a few people asking about how to set up the Slack integration. Maybe you could show that?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for convenience in the demo, I wanted to have the Slack integration ready to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, I'm going to switch it off, I'm going to switch it on again. So let me just switch my screen share back on. Now, hey, Chrissy, can you see that okay?
Yes.
Excellent. So I was on my getting started page. Now, one of the things that we have is some apps. So one of the main options here at the top allows you to connect your Continually installation to a bunch of different tools that we find people are already using. So here, you'll see the Slack is already connected. I'm going to disconnect that. And you'll see when it's disconnected, if I go to live chat, the first thing it's going to ask me to do is to connect Slack. So I'm going to do that here. Now, so I think this is the demo space that we're using. So just bear with me while I try and remember the Slack password. Let me see if, so it's saved in my browser, so just bear with me 2 seconds while I look up the password. Here we go. So whenever you put your credentials in, Slack is going to ask you to give us permissions. And so you saw whenever I was showing you the way that we use the Slack integration, a good convention that we find is to have all the notifications about your chat going to one place. So here you have the option to select the channel. And you can see here are some of the channels in that Slack workspace. I'm going to pick live chat because that's a good place to look for incoming messages from customers. And this tells you about the permissions you're going to grant. I'm going to click authorize. That's it. Live chat is now working. And so that's it. That's all you need to do. There are some things you can customize about how the Slack integration works. So you can customize the messages that are sent. Maybe you want to say those in your own voice or to ask for an email address or not. But that's pretty much it.
Awesome. And so we had one follow-up question to that, and just, so we don't have any confusion. The user does not need to have Slack. They will be interacting with the chatbot. Only you will be interacting with Slack, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great.
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah. All right. So let's get in. We had quite a few questions. So let's get into those if you're ready.
Yes.
All right. First, I want to say that Johnny, he said, I downloaded the trial and I'm loving it. So yay. I'm glad that's working out for him. All right. Let's see. So let's start with Stella's question. She said, I have 2 questions, please. I need to send messages to people who wrote to me in Messenger in the past. And second, I need a bot for people on my Facebook page. Is this possible? I'm sure you hear
yes, and I just saw all the questions coming in whilst you were saying that. So we heard really loud and clear that there's a lot of interest in having Continually support Messenger. That's a big change because Continually was designed as something for people using the web. And we can't say for sure exactly how that would work and if we're going to do that. So if Messenger is really top of your list, I don't want to make any commitments that we're going to do that because we haven't planned it out. But we go where the market is, and if that's what people need, then we're going to want to support that. But because it's not something we've done so far, I guess I don't want to make any promises that we haven't thought through yet.
Awesome. Great answer. Deep is asking, is there a way to have conditional logic on appointments? For example, I want to show one message if they've booked an appointment and another message if they have not booked one.
Right. That's a perfect use. So exactly that. So like I created that question to services, you can create the question that you want to use as a variable. And then depending on what the content of that is, whether it is or is not set or what it contains, you can then use that to route the conversation like I did with paths, but using a conditional logic instead. That's a great example.
Awesome. And Arya was asking, can we generate PHP JavaScript variables with actual times? For example, he would like a dynamic variable to say good afternoon or good morning.
So the short answer is sort of ish. So you can't create dynamic JavaScript and PHP variables, but that behavior of being able to customize the conversation flow based on something like time of day, you can't quite do it yet the way conditional logic works, but that's a piece of feedback we got this week. As a small change we think will ship in the next couple of days. So you'll be able to do that really soon.
Awesome, great. And Ron was asking, can responses be added to ActiveCampaign custom fields? And to do that, does he need a Zapier connection?
So the answer is yes. So you do need a Zapier connection. So as well as all the direct integrations that you saw, you can send details from Continually across to Zapier, or Zapier, as some people say. And the contact details will all be passed across. We think there's probably some refinements we can make there in terms of how the content of the conversation maps to things like custom fields. So we're going to continue to iterate on that with any feedback that we get.
Awesome. All right. And John is saying, I'd like to create a flow for website visitors to schedule a free consultation. Is there a way to automatically send a video chat link to the visitor after they've scheduled the time?
Yes. So one of the things that I didn't show, which is really helpful, is when you connect your calendar, you can customize all of the calendar details that are sent. So, what I do is I have a personal Zoom link. So we use Zoom for all our meetings. And it means that whenever someone gets the calendar invite, it comes pre-filled with all the details that they have. You can also use variables in those calendar invites, so you can personalize it to the visitor as well.
Okay, great. And we had a couple questions about the deal itself and the pricing. People would like to know how many sites can they use this on with just the one coupon code, with the one code?
Right. So we don't restrict the number of sites that you can use. So if you buy one coupon code, that gives you 50,000 page views per month and up to 5 seats. We've also added over the last week a new feature called sub-accounts. And I can demo this if it's not clear. But whenever you create a sub-account, you can create like a mini team within your organization, which is completely independent. So if you had 5 different websites and you wanted each of them to have its own workspace, its own Slack, its own Zapier connection, and to be entirely independent, that's how you would do that. Now, within each sub-account, you can have multiple websites. So if you had a team who were running 5 websites and they were all related and they were all on the same Zapier account, you could, in theory, have multiple websites within a single account too.
Okay. Dan's asking, what happens if he goes over that 50,000 page limit?
So we stop serving the bot. So we give you a grace period. So if you go over that limit, we send you a warning first. And so we know, like with an AppSumo promotion, sometimes you get an unexpected surge in traffic, and things like that can happen. So we'll give you a warning first in case it's just a temporary bump. And if it's a permanent increase, then you have the choice to stop serving the bot when you hit the limit.
Okay, great. And is there a Google Sheets integration?
No, but there's another question I see coming up. Someone's asking about Zapier and what can you use Zapier for. That's a perfect example of a Zapier integration. So when someone goes through your bot flow, you could use Zapier to create a new record in Google Sheets. And so there's tons of ways that you can use those.
Awesome. So we also had a lot of other recommendations for integrations. Where can they get those recommendations to you? Do you have like a roadmap where they can add ideas, or should they email you?
So immediately you can email us through the app and we'll respond to all those incoming requests. We have a draft of our public roadmap that we're going to share. I had hoped to have it ready for the webinar today. I will share it with you, Christy, and I'm going to commit in this recording that that's going to come out with the follow-up. So we've changed our roadmap tool. We've just put it in a Trello board to make it more convenient. And so we'd love to hear, as well as the things that people have been saying to us directly, for you to share your ideas with the rest of the community. And the improvements that are most popular are the ones that we're going to build.
Great. All right. Cindy wants to know, does continually affect load speed?
Not really, no. So the way that we've built the product means that it should load last on the page, and you can put it at the very end of your HTML page if you want. It's served from the CDN, and we've done everything we can to optimize the page load. So it shouldn't make any meaningful difference to someone browsing the site or even to things like SEO. Awesome,
great. And let's see, what about GDPR?
Yes, that's a great question. So continually is GDPR compliant. So in GDPR, we are a data processor, and you, the person running the website, are a data controller. So there's a few things that we can do to help you there. So first, all our servers are located in Europe. We use AWS data centers in Dublin, so all of your data stays in Europe. We can, if you need it, send you a data processing agreement that sets out all the detail about how we handle the data. And we also have the features that you'll need to do things like we automatically expire data after 12 months. We make sure that if you want, you can permanently delete someone and so on. If anyone has more detailed questions, I know GDPR can be quite complicated. Feel free to reach out to us through the in-app support and we'll get right back to you.
Okay, awesome. And so we're coming back to page views for a second here. Someone said, please define a page view. Is it an engagement with the bot or simply a visit to the web page?
Simply a visit to the web page. Every time you load our script, we make a call to the server to look up, is this a returning visitor that we should recognize? Is this someone who the bot is targeted to in a specific way and we want to personalize that experience? So we load and process the bot every time the page loads.
Okay. And Jeff would like to know, is there a way to add a delay so that responses look more natural?
Hey, that's a great question. So at the moment, the delay is fixed, but this has also come up in the last week where we've had some suggestions on ways that delays could be useful. So that's another change you'll expect to see coming out real soon.
Awesome. And Michael would like to know, can you make chatbot actions show up in Google Analytics?
Yes, you can. So again, there's a little bit of an extra line of code or a few extra lines of code you'll need to add to do that. But it's the summary is that you fire an event, and it means in Google Analytics you can see an aggregate view of how your chatbot is affecting your conversions. So again, if you send me an email through the support, I'll send you back some example code that shows you exactly how to do that.
Awesome, great. And Colin would like to know, can you use keywords to trigger a flow?
So I think the answer is probably yes. I'm not sure I understand Colin exactly right. But if I think of a scenario where, say, someone has landed on a site from organic search, or you have some UTM parameters in the URL, that would be a great way where if you know the intent of someone coming to the page and you're trying to think about the source of the traffic and making it more relevant for them, you could use targeting in that case, or you could use some conditional logic to target the bot specifically for that group of visitors. If that wasn't what you meant, Colin, then let me know and we'll take another go at it.
Okay, I'll let you know if he comes back. Someone asked, can the chatbot icon be animated to get the visitor's attention?
So that would be something you could do with a button of your own. I personally wouldn't recommend it, only because it's kind of a tool you can use once, and once you've done it, visitors will get fatigued. So it's not something we've built into the product out of the box. But if you put an animated GIF on, if you assign the continually class that I mentioned, then clicking that button will trigger the chatbot.
Okay, great. And so can the website owner download like a daily or a weekly report of all the chat conversations that come in?
Yeah, so you get an export on the dashboard for sure. If you would like a weekly report, hit me up. We have that feature in beta where we've developed it. It's live, but we haven't added it to every account yet, so we want to see what feedback we get on what's in the report. But yes, that's totally possible.
Okay, and Colin just came back, and he said, if I asked what insurance they have and they said Blue Cross, then it triggers the flow based on that answer.
Yes. So that would be a good example of the variables and conditional logic we were talking about. So if you created a question like that, and if you assign the answer to that to be a variable, then you can create with some logic and some different paths from that. What we would find is that a lot of the time, if someone has a menu option of 3 or 4 or 5 things that are common answers, it's a lot easier to click one of those rather than necessarily typing in exactly what they're thinking of. So what we find is that if you use free text input, that's best suited to when you have no idea what they might say. Whereas if you think it might be Blue Cross, I would put that in a multiple choice question.
Awesome. Okay. And Ramon was asking, can we block IP addresses?
Oh, no, you can't do that at the minute, but that's something I heard recently, or a suggestion made yesterday, which we think would be really good. So we'll look to add that as soon as we can. Okay.
And Shahid is asking, is there any payment integration to charge sub-accounts, or are we supposed to charge the customers directly?
So I guess your relationship, I didn't catch that person's name, but the relationship between you as the service provider setting up the bot and your client is really up to you. So the sub accounts come bundled. You can use them however you want. It might be that you're a business who owns and operates multiple websites, and that's something we've heard when people have lots of microsites of their own. It might be that you're an agency working on behalf of your clients. That's all totally cool, and it's kind of really up to you. And the kind of the commercial business model you want to use is something we'll kind of let you figure out by yourself.
Okay, great. Now Lamar's asking, in regards to sub-accounts, if you would like to use them for clients, will there be an opportunity to remove the continually branding in order to show either the agencies or the client's branding?
So if you mean remove the continually branding inside the dashboard, That's not something that's currently possible. This is something that has come up now in the last day or so, which we had not anticipated. Now that people, we've shipped the sub accounts and we've seen them. Seems like this is the kind of thing that people are suggesting. I think the answer there is it depends, because we'll have to see where those changes make sense for all our customers. We're definitely going to want to make them. But we'd have to get into a little bit more detail. That's the kind of thing I think we put on the Trello roadmap, and we can kind of get into all the ins and outs there.
Okay, great. And so Josh had a question about different languages. Can this bot work in different languages?
So we have seen people building bots in lots of different languages, and we've come to realize over the last few days that there are, as you maybe saw in the demo, small little bits of UI, like the message timestamp says received, and that's hard-coded in English. And I'm going to hold my hands up and say that as a native English speaker, we were maybe oblivious to the fact that some of those bits of UI needed to be customized. And so I'm going to apologize for that, because we maybe wish we'd done that differently. But we are committing to ship an improvement for localization, within the next couple of months, and ideally as soon as we can. So you will be able to change all of those text strings. If there are speakers of other languages who want to help us and to give us their input on, what would make sense for them and how that could be really easy, we'd love to hear it.
Okay, good. And Diana had a question about the codes again, and she's asking, the 5 codes can only be used on the same domain, or can I put it to work on several different websites? And I think we answered that earlier, but maybe we could just say it again in this form.
Yeah, no, for sure. You can use the codes across as many websites as you want. And so if you have 50 websites, great, you can use the codes. And if you buy 50 codes, you can have one per website. If you want to have 50 websites within one account, that works too.
Okay, good. Rich profile. Does it capture visitor Facebook profile? And can we get a custom domain for the landing page? So 2 questions.
So rich profiles. So it really depends on 2 things. So we gather all the information that we directly get about that visitor's experience. So if there's something like the page they are on, where they've been browsing on your site, the referrer, if we have it, what they said in the conversation, so you can understand the behavior and their intent. And then we also look at, especially on the sort of the B2B side, if someone is a business buyer, you can generally get good public information about them, like their LinkedIn or their social profiles, what organization they work for. The quality of that data tends to be less good for individuals because people's personal information isn't as widely available. So you might get someone's Facebook or Twitter profile, but it's much more geared towards the kind of the B2B side of things. Okay.
And then can we get a custom domain for the landing page?
So custom domains for landing pages is something that, again, has come in recently, and we're going to support. I think it's going to ship in the next couple of months. There is a workaround or a solution that we've seen used, which is to create a HTML page at the URL that you want on your own domain and to include the landing page as an iframe. It's a bit of a workaround rather than a perfect solution, but that would work today.
Okay, good. And Colin asked, what's the best way to create a bot template for a certain niche and then customize it for each client?
So, gosh, I don't know. So we do allow you to create bot templates where you can create a bot in your account and then to copy it. If you were intending to do that with sub accounts, that's not something that we supported until just this week. So it isn't currently possible to create a bot in one account and copy it across to another. If that turns out to be something that's a popular request that people want to be able to do, then we'll definitely look at that. But it's not something we'd anticipated.
Okay, good. And so Chad had a question about Slack again. So he said he's asking, is Slack familiarity required for the website visitor, or is it simply a portal for the continual user? And again, I think we answered that earlier. I just want to reiterate for those who may be joining late.
Yeah, for sure. It's just for the continual user. So if you are the admin and you want to reply to the messages and you have Slack open on your workstation, that's great. Your website visitor will only see the little sidebar UI and they'll have no idea what's going on behind it.
Okay, great. And so Samuel's asking, can the notification email contain an attachment or JSON with the value of the saved variables?
I think I understand the question. So we will add the variables to the text of the email. I don't think it can contain an attachment, so like a programmatic output. It is the kind of thing that maybe there would be, that would be a good roadmap discussion, because I'm sure it's something that we can and will support, but I need to understand just a little bit better what Samuel wants to do there.
Okay. All right, so let's move on then. So Sean's asking, we still have some questions about duplicating a template. A couple questions have just come in. Can we create a bot template and then duplicate it later and edit the duplicate?
Yes.
Yes, within the same account, you cannot transfer them between sub-accounts. I think that's
right.
Okay. All right. And let's see, can we get dynamic variables like a timestamp?
Dynamic variables like a timestamp. I guess possibly. I need to understand the scenario a little bit better to just know exactly what you mean by that. But like, so I gave an example earlier where with variables, there's always iteration, and so treating things like time of day and day of week is an improvement we're working on right now. So even if it isn't something that we support today, a core feature like variables, we always want to make better. And if there's a different use scenario that we haven't thought about, we'll definitely want to support that.
Okay. And we have a question. Would it be possible to use audio files in chat? For example, like someone saying welcome with their voice?
For sure. So I think it would just depend. I mean, you could add an audio file to the flow. We just want to think through what that experience would be and like how that will work for the user. So it's a new idea that I hadn't thought about before.
Okay, good. And so many ideas and suggestions. I'm sure you're getting links. You've got tons of ideas. That's one of the benefits of being on AppSumo, is that you get a bunch of feedback from people who are interested in your product. All right, yeah, good. And so Jeff is asking, is there a variable that says if they are on desktop or mobile?
There is not a variable that says that, although that is something that we can detect. And I think we'd probably add that to the lead profile. Certainly we track that information because we're serving up a different experience for them. So if that's something that would be helpful as a variable, then for sure we could add that.
Okay. Now, what happens if, we get 50,000 page views? What happens if people want more page views? What are their options after this deal?
So I guess if you think you need more page views, we would encourage you to buy more codes, and that way you can lock in the lifetime pricing now. We do recognize that someone might only need 50,000 today, but their business might turn out to do really well, and their traffic grows, and they over time end up growing into a bigger account. So we can't say what the pricing upgrade will be, because who knows what the future will hold. What we will say is that we will offer preferential pricing at discounted rate for the AppSumo community. So if you start now, we will give you better pricing than is publicly available if you need to upgrade in the future, because we want to have your support now, and we do value the input.
Awesome. I would buy all the codes you can, because the max is 5 codes, right?
I don't know if 5 is a max. I think we've actually seen people buying more than that. Well, people have been telling me they bought more than 5. So 5 is kind of like a sweet spot where that should be enough for almost everyone. But if you intend to use them for people like clients, maybe you want to buy more. Yeah,
that's some good advice, guys. Get in on it now, because this is a really good deal. So I think we've answered the majority of the high-level questions. Paul, maybe you could let them know how they could get a hold of you after this webinar if they have any more questions.
Right. So the 2 places that you'll be able to find us are on the deal page. I think I've answered all the questions that I can see. So there's a lot of activity there. There's so many questions now. If you have asked a question there and I haven't gotten back to you, it's not intentional. It's only because the page is now so long. There's so much great discussion going on. And the second place is through the in-app support. So again, if you drop us a line through the support message there, we'll get back to you as quickly as we can.
Awesome. So guys, thank you again for tuning into this webinar, and I'll be sending out the replay later today. It's going to be on YouTube, so you can fast forward, rewind, do all that you need to do. So again, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.